Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Tuesday afternoon in the capital city. Hi, hello, how the heck are you? Everybody, hope you are having a great day today. And I appreciate you spending some of that time on this Tuesday afternoon with us here on 580 Sports Talk on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9. Online at 580WIBW.com and on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We are streaming our video on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, you are consuming the show today. Thanks for being along. Appreciate you so much. Welcome into 580 Sports Talk. We are with you for the next 2.5 hours. As once again, we will break away early for some Royals baseball from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Game 2 of a 3-game set between the Royals and the Yankees tonight. The Royals will try to bounce back from last night's 4-1 defeat at the hands of the Bronx Bombers. Pre-game will start at 5:30, so that's when we'll hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. First pitch, once again, scheduled for 6:05. So we're rocking with you for the next 2.5 hours. Thank you for rocking with us. I am Dan Lucero, solo for the moment. Brendan Dworzynski out today, a little bit under the weather. Hopefully he'll be back with us tomorrow. Spencer Dupuis will join us in a little bit as well. And plenty to talk about on this Tuesday, including the aforementioned Kansas City Royals. And why don't they hit good? I think that is the big question now that we are through 17 games. We stand here on tax day, middle of April. And the Royals don't hit good. Why not? That's the question. And I dove into some of the underlying numbers, and this isn't one of those where you can look at some of the metrics and say, well, some guys have just been unlucky. And guys are hitting into some hard outs. Been some hang with thems, as you would hear Rex Hudler describe them. Not a lot of that. The quality of contact isn't good right now for the Royals, even if they are making enough contact. This is not a problem where, oh my gosh, they strike out too much. No, they're not hitting the ball with any kind of authority. Why is that? I have a theory. I'll share it. Also, what in the world was Seth Lugo's game plan last night? I did not like it, and I think he paid a steep price for it in the Royals' defeat. And I hope that Michael Wacha has a different plan for trying to attack particularly the left-handed hitting members of that New York Yankees lineup. We will get into that. Plenty of Royals baseball to talk about here at the top of the program. We're going to talk some transfer portal today, both football and basketball. Last 24 hours, K-State basketball, very busy in the transfer portal. 3 departures, including Doug McDaniel, who all signs were that he was going to give it another go in Manhattan, and then that tide turned very swiftly, and Doug McDaniel entered the transfer portal, as is usually the case. If it is breaking news that concerns us, it happened not long after we went off the air yesterday. But Doug McDaniel, along with Ugo Onyenso and Baye Fall, entered the transfer portal yesterday. K-State did make a nice addition to their roster that we'll talk about, but I want to talk about the departures, particularly of Fall and McDaniel, as they pertain to K-State, where they're at, where they can go, and how much, if at all, these departures affect them. We didn't really get into it yesterday, but it was a big story over the weekend, the Nico Iamaleava saga in Tennessee, where essentially we had a college quarterback hold out for more NIL money. And Tennessee said, deuces, we're good. You want that $4 million a year? Somebody else can give it to you. We're not going to do it. We'll move on without you. You go ahead and you jump in that portal. We'll move on without you. And it is being celebrated in some corners as the college programs taking some of the power back in this NIL era. And I do think there is some truth and validity to that. But I think the thing that isn't being discussed enough in this whole transfer saga is how this is not good for football. Just in general, the sport of football, as it pertains to quarterbacks and their freedom of movement. So I do have some thoughts on that we haven't gotten a chance to get to, but we are going to get to those a little bit later on. Also, we'll have some transfer portal from a KU perspective to talk about, as well as the end of spring football practice for the Jayhawks with our guy Michael Swain at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hours. Michael will join us. He, of course, is from fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll speak to Michael about some spring football thoughts and look at what KU might have cooking in the transfer portal. So that's coming up at 4:30. Plus, we'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines at 5, as we always do. We'll do another round of What Is Wrong With You. We got Random Question Tuesday coming up here in just a little bit. And, of course, your interaction with the program today. Would love to hear from you on the text line. The text line is open, 785-272-9429. You can also, if you are watching the show on our YouTube channel today, our YouTube stream at our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, jump on in the live chat, interact with your hosts, interact with your fellow listeners. We'd love to hear from you in the YouTube live chat. Tyler has us off to a start today. Vinny Pasquantino looking as lost as Dan at a baseball game in 1993. Okay, Tyler. You know who doesn't appreciate that comment? My dear mother. Think about that. Think about what you've done. Think about what you've done, Tyler. Anyhow, very funny. Appreciate Tyler, Trevor, Christopher, Ryan are in already today, and looking forward to more of you joining us throughout the show. And after the show, even if you can't comment live, appreciate those of you who do tune into the video stream and catch us that way over on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to the Royals and their offensive offense, I owe you a keyword for the Choose Your Trip 2025 contest going on now at our website, 580wibw.com. There's a link on the front page. You click on it. It says, listen to win a trip to anywhere in the U.S. That's the contest. You win the contest, you get to choose your trip. What do you know? That's the name of the contest. You click on that link on our website, 580wibw.com. It prompts you to enter a keyword. The keywords change every hour. This hour's keyword is food. Food, F-O-O-D, as in when Max Fried looks at the Royals lineup tonight, he sees food. F-O-O-D, food. That is your keyword this hour for the Choose Your Trip contest over at 580wibw.com. All right, Royals can't hit. They have, in their 9 losses now this year, scored a total of 13 runs in those games. And whatever you think of this Royals pitching staff, it is very hard to ask these guys to buttress that kind of offensive struggle night in and night out. And it's not just that they have not scored runs. They've been hard to watch try because the quality of at-bats has not been very good, and the quality of contact really has not been very good. I don't like to overwhelm you listeners with numbers, especially like I'm in the weeds on this stuff because I'm a baseball guy. I understand that if you are listening, you may be a more casual baseball fan than I. Most people are. That's not a knock on any of you. I'm really into baseball. So I'm really into the numbers and some of the more advanced analytics and data. And you may not be, and you may not think there's any place in the game. You might not even want to hear us talk about war ever. And that's fine. I understand. But walk with me real quick while I tell you that the underlying numbers support the fact that the Royals are not making good contact. There is a stat out there that abbreviates as WO Bacon. WO Bacon, W-O Bacon. It is weighted on base average on contact. Essentially, how much damage are you doing when you hit the ball? The Royals are dead last in Major League Baseball in that statistic. And again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have an advanced calculus degree that can explain to you how that is calculated, but we're feeding it data of how hard are you hitting the ball? What kind of launch angle are you hitting the ball with? How frequently are you hitting the ball? And the Royals have the lowest number in baseball in that particular stat. There is an expected version of the stat, like what kind of number would you expect to have given your quality of contact? The Royals are bottom 4 in X-Woe bacon, if you will. They continue to hit a lot of pop-ups. 11% of the batted balls for the Kansas City Royals this year have been pop-ups. As you'd expect, they are, in turn, not catching the ball on the fat part of the bat very often this year. They are bottom 3 in the league in barrel percentage. Only 6% of batted balls for the Royals are barrels. They are hitting a ton of pop-ups, as Trevor points out in the YouTube comments. They all pop the ball up every single time they swing the bat. Kind of what it feels like right now for the Royals. And I do think I'm always hesitant. I don't like being the fire somebody guy, and I really don't like being the fire somebody guy 17 games into a season. And I really, really hesitate to be the fire somebody guy 17 games into a season when you're 8-9 and you went to the playoffs last year, right? This is not a sky is falling scenario yet, even though it has been unpleasant to watch for more nights than not so far. This is not yet a Chicken Little situation for the Royals offense. This is why baseball does not always lend itself really well to the day-by-day sports talk reaction window. It would be like if we did a sports talk show after every change of possession in an NFL game, right? Like, that's what we're talking about. One baseball game. It's like if we came on the air after the Chiefs had a possession and then the Chiefs' opponent had a possession, and we were supposed to come on the air and draw conclusions based on 2 series of football, like half a quarter. That's hard, right? Like, not hard as in it makes our job hard. It's hard because you don't want to overreact. This is still a small sample size. We are still really early in this. So I'm not going to be the fire somebody guy. But I do think that the Royals as a team have a poor approach to the play right now. I think this is an entire team that has sold out looking for pull power to the pull side, right field for lefties, left field for righties. And the results obviously have not been there. Now, it is possible that some of these hitters are just missing, that some of these pop-ups are off by a grain of wood, and that these April pop-ups turn into May dingers or doubles. That's possible. And again, I want to stress this. It is good to hit the ball in the air to the pull side. That is a good thing to do. Typically, when you pull the ball in the air, you do it with authority. You look at the guys in the major leagues who pull the ball in the air the most often. Isaac Paredes of the Astros is second in baseball in pulled balls in the air as a percentage of his total balls in play. He's second in baseball in that stat. He's off to a good start. He's got 3 home runs. He leads the Astros in OPS. He's a right-handed hitter playing half his games at Minute Maid Park. Pulling the ball is really good in the air because you don't have to pull it far in the air to hit it over the fence into those Crawford boxes. But Isaac Paredes is second in baseball in that stat. Third in baseball in that stat is Spencer Torkelson. And if you haven't noticed, he's off to a red-hot start for the first-place Tigers, finally starting to look like the number 1 overall pick that he was about 4 or 5 years ago. Fourth in the league in that stat, pulled balls in the air by percentage, is a gentleman named Matt Mervis. And you got to be a real sicko to know who Matt Mervis is. But it's me. I'm sicko, and I will tell you that he's got 5 home runs already this year, and he leads the Marlins in OPS. That's why you got to be a sicko to know who he is, because he plays for baseball's version of a Ponzi scheme, the Miami Marlins. But trust me when I tell you, Matt Mervis is crushing the baseball. So those are the guys. Those are 2 through 4 on the leaderboard when it comes to pulling the ball in the air. They're all getting results. Pulling the ball in the air, good. You know who has pulled the ball in the air by percentage the most of any hitter in baseball this year? MJ Melendez. MJ Melendez. And 22% of the balls that he has hit into the air this year wouldn't be home runs unless the Royals move their home games to an elevator shaft. 22% of MJ's batted balls are like straight up in the air. So pulling the ball in the air, good. Hitting the ball in the air 30 feet out in front of home plate, not great. You know who's league average on pulling the ball in the air so far this year? The best hitter on the Royals, Bobby Witt Jr., who homered last night. He's not concerned about catching out in front. He's not worried about selling out for power. He's up there to hit. You know who else is up there to hit? Michael Garcia. And Garcia's a guy, if anybody, who should internalize the idea, man, I already hit the ball hard. If I pulled it in the air more often, I could be a real good hitter. He lost a season last year trying to pull the ball in the air. This year, so far, he's hitting the ball to all fields, and he's off to a pretty good start. In fact, he's well below league average when it comes to pulling the ball in the air. And right now, other than Bobby Witt Jr., who would you rather see at the plate for the Royals other than Mike Hill? So I think this is an approach issue, and I do point the finger at the hitting coaches. I do point the finger at Alex Zumwalt for that, because Jonathan India is pulling the ball in the air more than he ever has. And Vinny Pasquantino is pulling the ball in the air more than he ever has. You know what those guys aren't doing? Hitting a lick. Jonathan India doesn't have an extra base hit. He's also hurt. He's out of the lineup again tonight. Vinny Pasquantino's at least got a couple of home runs, but his overall numbers have really, really suffered. So I do think this is an Alex Zumwalt issue. And I do think that there are hitters in this lineup that need to focus on the things that make them good and have led to previous big league success, more so than on the idea that we just got to pull the ball in the air, baby. Those are the most valuable batted balls in baseball, and we got to get more of those. I think that's wrong. I think that's completely wrong. And I do think that is a hitting coach issue. I do. So, like I said, I'm not fire anybody guy, certainly not this early in the season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Alex Zumwalt needs to be shown as walking papers, but I do think that the Royals, as a group, have gone too far down a road that is not leading them to be the best versions of themselves offensively. Embrace, as Matthew Lamar put it up Royals Review, embrace the double. Embrace the gapper. Those hits are fine too. Embrace keeping the line moving. Because it's hard to keep the line moving when you keep hitting the ball straight up in the air. You know where the line moves in that direction? The line moves back to the dugout. The line moves back to the clubhouse when you're not shaking hands because you get beat, because you only get 2 hits off of a completely washed Carlos Carrasco and 4 relievers last night. Something does have to give. And look, maybe I'm in the wrong because, again, this is 17 games is a small sample size. And it could be that these April pop-ups turn into doubles and homers when May rolls around. That could be. That could happen. But so far, not so good. And in particular, guys who the Royals are leaning on to be real productive have not been. And I think the biggest part of the reason is they're focused on the wrong thing at the plate. I do. Speaking of approaches I didn't like, what was Seth Lugo trying to accomplish last night, pitching inside the lefties at Yankee Stadium? I poked as much fun at Yankee Stadium's dimensions as the next guy. But all 4 of those home runs Lugo gave up last night were rockets. And I've used the phrase on this show, and I believe it as a baseball truism, solo home runs don't beat you. Well, if you give up 4 of them and your lineup is in a funk, then yeah, they do. Yeah, they do beat you. And they beat Seth Lugo last night. I thought otherwise he was fine. I thought the pitch to Jazz Chisholm for the game-tying home run was as bad a pitch as you're ever going to see Seth Lugo throw. 87 out over the middle of the plate. And that was a hit-me pitch. But everything else, Lugo's trying to go inner half on these lefties, and they were ready for it. They were ready to jump on it and elevate and hit the ball in the air to the pull side. You see why you want to focus on that, right? Because the Yankees are, I think, second in baseball at hitting the ball in the air to the pull side as a team. The only team they're behind is the Royals. Only the Royals pull the ball in the air to the pull side more often than the Yankees do. Here's the difference. The Yankees do it with authority, and the Royals do it, and it doesn't leave the infield. So something's got to give. Something's got to change. We'll take a quick time out here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to back to the Royals a little bit later on. I do have a thought about the whole Nico Iamaleava saga at Tennessee, and it goes beyond the impact that it's going to have on Tennessee and even the impact that it has on specifically Iamaleava. I just don't think all this quarterback transferring is very good for the sport of football. I'll explain why. We're going to get to that. We got Random Question Tuesday. Michael Swain's going to join us. We'll talk K-State and the transfer portal and basketball. What is wrong with you? We got a jam-packed show. We're with you till 5:30. This is 580 Sports Talk. $3:30 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan with you. Spencer will be in a bit. Brendan out today, a little under the weather, so hopefully he will be back with us tomorrow. Another aspect of why I'm questionable when it comes to the Royals' offensive approach, texter from the 785 lands on it. I'm aware that the Royals are playing in a bandbox right now, writes the texter, but they play half their games in a park where power doesn't play as well. There's never been a Royals team that was a great power hitting team. What? I'm not even sure it was a really low number of home runs that the title winner in 2015 hit. I think they were certainly bottom half of the American League in home runs as a team in 2015. They hit 139 home runs that year. They still scored 700, well over 700 runs. More than one way to skin a cat. Yeah, the best way, the way that takes the defense out of the equation is hit the ball over the fence, and I understand that. And there is something to be said for, and I believe it when it comes to October in particular, ball go far, team go far. Sure, you score runs in the most certain way that you can, and you give yourself a great chance. But power typically doesn't play great at Kauffman Stadium. And right now, I think it's not just the idea that, it's harder to hit home runs at our home park. I just think that the pursuit of power is making guys like Vinny Pasquantino in particular less of a hitter than he ought to be. Because when he came up, he wasn't this kind of hitter. When MJ Melendez came up, he was somebody who he would take a walk. He would hit the ball to all fields. And when he caught one out front, it would go a long way. But home runs were a consequence of a good approach. Home runs were a consequence of swinging at a good pitch and being on a pitch and not, I am trying to pull the ball in the air. They are a consequence of a good process. And I don't believe that the Royals have a real good offensive process right now. I don't. And that doesn't mean they have to go back to like Whitey ball or anything, because they're not built for that either. Vinny Pasquantino's not going to steal 20 bases. But Matthew Lamar wrote a piece about this at Royals Review. In particular about Vinny Pasquantino, I believe the idea was embracing his inner Billy Butler. Like, that is much more the kind of hitter that Pasquantino actually is. He's not like Kyle Schwarber, where he's going to strike out 200 times, but he's going to hit 45 tanks. That's not who Vinny Pasquantino is. He's a lot closer to a Billy Butler type hitter, where, okay, maybe he only hits 20 home runs, but Vinny ought to hit 40 doubles. Vinny ought to hit 300. He knows the strike zone, and he shouldn't be striking out 100 times. But we'll see. Again, this could all turn around. It could turn around tonight. They could, Max Fried, good as he is, any pitcher could be homer prone in that ballpark. Could turn around tonight, and this all sounds very silly, and that's the nature of talking about baseball on a daily basis on a sports talk radio show. But appreciate the text. I wanted to talk about Nico Iamaleava. You saw the story over the weekend, certainly, that he essentially held out. Iamaleava and his representation had agreed to a 4-year NIL deal with Tennessee when he committed. That NIL deal is going to pay him in the range of $2 million a year. What I have read is that he was due $2.2 million from an NIL collective this year to play at Tennessee. And Iamaleava had a good year last year. Obviously, Tennessee went to the playoffs, so the Volunteers had a great year. And the price of the brick has gone up for quarterbacks. Carson Beck got $4 million to transfer from Georgia to Miami. And I think it is within reason for Nico Iamaleava to consider himself in the class of quarterback that Carson Beck is. Although that might be a knock on Carson Beck, because Iamaleava, he was good last year, but he wasn't spectacular. He wasn't a Heisman candidate. He light the world on fire. He's a good player, young guy, first full year as a starter. And he held out, essentially. We see pro football players do this all the time. I'm not making enough money on this contract. I want my contract redone. I'm not reporting to camp until I get a new contract. Well, NIL deals aren't contracts. It's not really how they work. So Tennessee can say, hey, we're moving on. You go ahead and you enter the portal, but we're not giving you what you want. So you go ahead and you go play somewhere else. You go find a place that'll give you that $4 million. And oh, by the way, good luck. Because the kinds of schools that can give $4 million to a quarterback are the kinds of schools that already have their quarterback. So good luck. Good luck to Nico Iamaleava. And nobody wins here. Because Tennessee is in a spot where they've got an unproven starting quarterback next year. I mean, they got 2 guys on the roster who are 4-star recruits. They got 1 guy who was in all of last year, was Iamaleava's backup. They're not desperate, but maybe they've got some donors who are going to say, no, we got to go out and we got to go get a guy. We got to go poach somebody. We got to get a quarterback from a different program. And if that happens, then that program has to go find a quarterback and so on and so forth. And that's not good for anybody. But Nico Iamaleava loses here too, and not just the guaranteed $2.2 million he was going to get if he just kept his mouth shut and reported to spring practice. Because now he's got to go somewhere. He doesn't know the offense. He doesn't know the personnel. He doesn't really know the coaches. And he's got to learn on the fly. And the expectation will be, wherever he ends up, he's the starting quarterback. And you assume the expectations that are going to come with the sizable NIL investment in his services that everyone knows is coming. And I don't think that's good for his development as a football player. And I think generally, the idea that there is so much transfer portal movement for quarterbacks is bad for the sport of football. Because you know what's really, really bad? Less than ideal, I guess you would say, for the development of quarterbacks? Repeated scheme changes. Repeated changes in the voice inside his head, in his headset. The voices in the quarterback room. Those are different year over year over year. You don't really get to develop. It's not fatal. Just ask Jayden Daniels about this, right? Like, Jayden Daniels is maybe the exception that proves the rule here, because he never had a stable scheme or steady voice in his ear, and he came out of college and in the pros, and he's just fine. But I can't help but think it's broadly detrimental to this generation of college quarterbacks if they're going to spend their young years program hopping. I think in Iamaleava's class, in his recruiting class, of the top 7 rated quarterbacks by 24/7 Sports, only one of them is at the same school where they started. And that's Arch Manning. He was number one quarterback in that class. And he's the only one who's still at the same school that he committed to and showed up at for his freshman year. And I just don't think that's good for quarterback development. And I think that not only hurts college football, I think that hurts the pro game, because guys come into the pros and they're not as ready. And if they're a big deal prospect or they've got big deal talent, then the expectations that are heaped upon them when they arrive in the NFL is unreasonable given the amount of development they still need to undergo. And again, this isn't 100% all the way down the line true. Bo Nix went into the transfer portal and ended up 2 years at Oregon after he had started at Auburn, and went to the NFL and had a really nice rookie year. Jayden Daniels, rookie of the year. But for all of those guys, there are other guys who we don't even get to see them come through to the NFL because their college careers never end up taking them anywhere, because they're never in a place where they can have stability, and they're not in a place where they can really develop. And look, the game itself is only as good as the quarterbacks. Football as an entertainment product, as something that we sit down to watch, it is only ever as good as the guys playing quarterback. So what's bad for quarterbacks is bad for football. I don't think what Nico Iamaleava is doing is good for him. I don't think the broader trend is good for quarterbacks. And I don't think that's real good for football. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll play around a Random Tuesday. Spencer's going to jump in with us, and we got Random Question Tuesday. Still a lot more to come on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Time for a little random question Tuesday here. Spencer Dupuis now joining us. All right, this is not the random question that I had planned, but it was news yesterday. The Blue Origin rocket that went up to space with Katy Perry and Gail King was on there, and Jeff Bezos' girlfriend was up there, and they went up for 10 minutes and 21 seconds on this rocket. Did they really go to space? Do you have to be up there longer to have gone to space? I don't think they went to space. I don't think Katy Perry gets to say she went to space. I think she took a ride on an airborne vessel. She didn't go to space. I think you have to be in space for an extended period of time. You don't get to just this is like if you drive through a state. Do you really get to claim you were there? Did they go to space? That's my first random question.
Well, where are you going in space?
You're just going up and back down.
So did they orbit in space though?
No, they didn't orbit. They got up to 330,000 feet of altitude, which is the universal, well, not a universally agreed upon definition, but a definition of being the edge of space.
If you go into orbit in space or go to the International Space Station or go to a planet, that is space.
That's space. So when I was in,
they flew to space. They didn't go into space. They flew to space.
So it's when I was in North Dakota covering a junior college volleyball tournament one year, and it was basically on the state line, Wapaton, North Dakota, 10 minutes from the state line of Minnesota. And we drove the team bus across to Minnesota to get gas or something. And then we came back. Had I gone to Minnesota?
Technically.
Yeah, but no, right?
Did you get out of the bus and walk on the ground?
That I don't remember. Okay, that's a bit fair.
So in comparison to your statement that you just put out, when I traveled with the Washburn women's basketball team up to Minnesota, I had never been to the great state of Iowa.
Uh-huh.
We stopped in Iowa and went to Chipotle. I got out of the bus and walked around. I have been to Iowa.
Okay, that's fair. Yes. I would agree with that. You experienced something in Iowa.
Yes.
These people, these celebrities, these looky-loos.
They flew to space.
They flew and saw space. They didn't go to space. Get out of my face, Katy Perry. You and your $28 million. You did not go to space.
Also, the whole over-dramatic thing of her coming back down, getting off the little space rocket thingy, and then kissing the ground.
Yeah, Gail King kissed the ground.
No, it was Katy Perry.
Maybe it was her, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, get out of
also,
my face.
Katy Perry released her concert set list in space. Oh, okay, so actually,
this is the most that I have thought about Katy Perry since she did the halftime show at the Super Bowl.
Actually,
I'll give her that.
If I remember seeing video correctly, they went to zero gravity. So does that count as space?
No, because you can hit zero gravity if you are in a particularly fast fighter jet. Or
yeah.
What you break the sound barrier or something. It doesn't mean you went to space. No, they did not go to space. Anyway, do you have a random question today?
Yes. What is something that you went to go do, but then you totally forgot to do to bring something that was needed to go with it? So, for instance, this weekend, I wanted to go get my car washed because it's been a while.
Uh-huh.
And I went to get a car wash at a place literally right around the corner from my from where I live, but they have broken bays. It's like a self car wash.
Sure.
So I've not going there anymore. So I went to a place right near the pad. So we got my car washed and then went to the pad. I totally forgot to bring those squeegee things because you wash your own car and there's water.
Yeah.
So what is something that you went to go do, but you forgot a main thing that you needed for that?
I went to cover a state basketball tournament 3 years ago and forgot to bring my broadcast equipment.
Yeah, you might need that.
Yeah. So I was in a hurry to get out. This is, I was working in Northwest Kansas at the time. I was heading out to Great Bend for the 1A Division II state tournament. Golden Plains High School up in Rexford had a really good run of girls basketball teams. They had about a 4-year run where they went to state every year. And that Rexford's about 20 minutes from Colby. So we were going to put their games on the air. And I drove down to Great Bend, and it was going to be really nasty weather the day I was leaving. So I was in a hurry to get out of town, to get down to Great Bend, and just forgot to throw my equipment bag with me. I had no Comrex, no headset. So, there's an app. There's a Comrex app. And I went and got a $7 Walmart headset I could plug into a tablet.
Yeah.
And that was how I did the games.
So is that headset the one that you use now?
No.
Oh.
No. No, because it's very specifically just for like a mobile device, just for like a tablet.
I didn't know if it was the one you used with your laptop.
No. I have a much nicer one for my laptop. That also did not make the trip. Why would I bring that? I have a whole thing of broadcast equipment. No, I did not. So that did happen. That did happen one time.
I literally finished washing the car, and I was like, "Oh yeah, there's no like jet dryer."
Yeah,
and I looked at Olivia, and she was like, "Well, yeah, you didn't bring any of those squeegee things."
So my real random question today didn't have anything to do with space. We were talking yesterday about Rory McIlroy winning the Masters, and one of the cool things about that being that was the thing that everybody who was there wanted to see, even if he wasn't their favorite golfer. By the end, that was the outcome that you were rooting for.
Yeah.
Unless you were like Justin Rose's wife. You were rooting for Rory McIlroy to win the thing and do the thing, and he did the thing. And that is a very, very rare outcome in sports where you see exactly the thing you came to see. So what is a time, and this not necessarily a sports question, maybe it's you went and saw a band or an artist and they performed a deep cut you really love. But what was a time that you went to see something and you were hoping to see one specific thing and you got to see it?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thank you.
That's a great question. I don't know.
A time where you got what you came for. You can say that you got what you came for.
I don't know, because like I didn't know it at the time that I was going, but like I don't know, when you go to a concert at a stadium, but then you like only get nosebleed seats, it's like a totally different experience, right? Than what happened last summer when I went back home to go see Luke Combs in DC, and while I was there, I got notified that I got floor seats. So it was like going to a concert, but like when you're in a stadium and you're up in your nosebleeds, you're kind of out of it, right?
Sure. It's a different experience.
I went to a concert, like boom, 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 like the bass, like everything, the concert experience that you get when you're going to like a concert venue.
So you even got more than what you paid for.
Yes. Yeah. That would be, I guess, it. That's the thing I can think of off the top of my head.
I guess for me,
because I haven't seen a no-hitter. I haven't seen a perfect, like,
yeah, but
that would be,
you don't go expecting to see that.
No.
Right? Like, you don't show up thinking, like, I am going to see, unless you are a fan of an NL West team and the Rockies are in town. You don't show up thinking, I'm going to see a no-hitter tonight. Like,
I mean, I guess when I go to a Caps game, I expect to see Ovechkin score a goal.
Did he?
And the last one that I went to, or one, I guess 2 years ago, the other day, I went and he scored a goal.
There you go. Perfect. Like, I remember we had really good seats. About once a year, my folks would spring for really good Rocky seats when I was growing up. We'd get some good seats for a game. We had seats. This would have been my senior year of high school. And we were right behind. We were probably about 15 rows behind home plate.
Dang.
And the Giants were in town. And this is like Barry Bonds, not the 73 homer year, but this is like still peak, roided out Barry Bonds hulking out, hitting a bunch of home runs. And of course, Todd Helton was my guy, and they both homered in the game. And I thought that was really cool that I got to see from that particular vantage point. I remember going and hoping, it'd be really cool to see Bonds get loose on one, or it'd be really cool to see Helton get loose on one from here. And they both went deep. And I remember leaving thinking, man, I saw 2 Hall of Famers hit home runs today. That's so cool.
I guess I'd say another one was back in, I guess it was 2013, maybe. My dad's boss was supposed to go to a Nationals game.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he had to go to like some conference out of town. So, and it was him and his girlfriend were supposed to go or something. My dad's boss and his girlfriend couldn't go. So he knew that I liked baseball. I liked the Nationals. So he gave us suite tickets.
Oh, that's cool.
So I got to live the life in the suite, and Bryce Harper hit a home run.
Oh, there you go. That's another one. Like, you show up thinking, man, I hope my favorite player goes deep. Or I hope my favorite player scores a goal. Or I hope my favorite basketball player, like I remember one night, me and a bunch of friends went to a Nuggets game when Tracy McGrady was playing for Orlando. And we went thinking, okay, this is like, Orlando's not very good, but maybe McGrady will go nuts and the Nuggets will win. And that's exactly what happened. McGrady scored like 51 and the Nuggets won. Like, it was exactly what we had come to see, and it unfolded. Music example for you. I saw Incubus at Red Rocks when I was in high school. They played my favorite, like, deep cut of theirs. They played Idiot Box off their first album. I was super psyched for that. Anyway,
I guess I could show another one from the concert. So Olivia and I have a song, like a favorite Luke Combs song, and I have like on a little fridge magnet thing that plays it.
Okay,
and he doesn't typically play it, but he played it
when
at
you were
concert.
there. You go. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah, you gave me a little time to think about it.
You got what you came for. There we go. That's Random Question Tuesday. We'll come back and wrap up this hour. 580 Sports Talk next. Real quick before we wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk, you know the old saying, some people are born great, some have greatness thrust upon them.
Yes.
There are some people that are just born great, and they're great at everything they do. For example, there is a now iconic and forever iconic photograph from this year's Masters golf tournament of Rory McIlroy brought to his knees, brought to all fours on the 18th green with relief more than joy, in his own words, at finally having won the Masters. Immediately following that putt he made to win the first playoff hole, there is this perfectly framed photo of Rory McIlroy on all fours. And the Getty Images photo credits belongs to a photographer you may have heard of by the name of Ken Griffey Jr. The Ken Griffey Jr.
Who is the other former, I want to say, baseball player?
Yes, he is not the only former baseball player to get really into photography. He's not the only former 1995 Seattle Mariner to get really into photography. Randy Johnson,
that's who it was,
has made a career out of photography.
Yes. He goes to like the biggest games too.
Yes, and Ken Griffey Jr. got to shoot the Masters, and he got the best picture of the whole tournament. He took a picture that's going to live forever. 600 home runs.
He made a lot of money off that career, or that picture, probably.
Some people are just great at everything. Yeah. Ken Griffey Jr., coolest swing, 600 homers, made backwards caps cool, and took that picture of Rory at the Masters. Just unbelievable.
Some greats are just great.
Yeah, some people are just great, like I said. We will take a break. When we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk about K-State's eventful last 48 hours in the transfer portal. We'll do Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain and What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And a special hello to everybody watching on video on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk, the name of the YouTube channel. You can also watch us on Facebook at WIBW News. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is with us today. Brendan Dworzinski is out today, a little under the weather. Hopefully he will be back with us tomorrow. We are with you for another hour and a half. We'll break away at 5:30 for some Royals baseball tonight. Game 2 of 3 in the Bronx against the New York Yankees. Royals dropped the opener of that series 4-1 last night. Just 2 hits to show for 9 innings of offense. Can they get it going tonight? Be a tall task against the big money left-hander for the Yankees, Max Fried. Michael Wacha on the bump for KC. Again, pregame coverage at 5:30. First pitch, 6:05 on the Royals Baseball Network and here on 580 WIBW. You can text the program. We want to hear from you. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. We also want to welcome those of you who are chatting along with us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. There is a chat feature on both the web browser and the mobile device, and you can interact with us and your fellow listeners / viewers throughout the show. Appreciate those of you who are doing that. Also, your code word for the Choose Your Trip 2025, but the sheet is across the table, so it's going to look awkward for everybody on video here. Vamp for me, Spencer, for like 5 seconds.
I mean, I have the word right here for you, but I got it. I had the word.
I got it. I got it. The word for this hour at 580WIBW.com. You go to 580WIBW.com. You click on the link on the front page. It says, listen to win a trip to anywhere in the U.S. You click on that link, and you enter the keyword, and that keyword gives you a chance to get registered to win a trip to anywhere in the U.S. You can enter as many times as you want, just once per hour, once per keyword, and the hourly keyword for the 4 o'clock hour on this Tuesday is escape. 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 As in, if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, I'm not into health food. I'm into champagne. If you like making love at midnight in the dunes on the Cape, you're the lady I've looked for. Come with me and escape. That's the keyword, escape, this hour. Familiar with the Rupert Holmes classic?
No, I was just going to say you can escape the dry weather of Kansas.
Well, you could do that.
And go to, I don't know, like the mountains of the Poconos or the Adirondacks in New York.
You could. You go to any of those places. You get to choose your trip. If you want to go to Wisconsin Dells, you can do it. If you want to go to Hilton Head, you can do it. If you want to go to Odessa, Texas, God bless you. You can go. You can do the.
If you want to go to West Virginia, you could go to.
You could. Almost heaven, West Virginia. You could end up there if you want. Yep, go 580WIBW.com. The hourly keyword is escape. Coming up this hour, we got 2 new stories on what is wrong with you. And Michael Swain will join us from fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Plenty to talk about with Michael as spring football comes to an end. So we're going to talk some Jayhawk football in addition to the latest with regards to KU in the transfer portal. But wanted to start with some transfer portal news from Kansas State because they have had a very eventful 24 to 48 hours in the men's basketball transfer portal. Yesterday, Ugo Onyenso, Baye Fall, and Doug McDaniel all hit the portal. I don't know that there's much to say about Onyenso. I thought it was very up and down for him. There were some moments where it looked like he could have played effectively next to Coleman Hawkins. I thought that pairing actually looked pretty good in the first KU game at Allen Fieldhouse. I thought those two played off of each other fairly well. And Yenso certainly showed some promise as a rim protector, but not much of one as an offensive force. And totally understand why that would be a potential mutual parting of the ways. Just not a great fit there. Baye Fall, I don't think is much of a loss. he is a player right now who is all projection. And typically those players can't help teams who have real aspirations. And that's one way we don't talk about that the transfer portal fails players. Like a player like Baye Fall could really use an opportunity to play basketball because he has not played a lot of basketball in his life. He did not start playing basketball since he didn't start playing until he was 13 years old. Okay. And so he'd been playing less than half his life. He was somebody like a lot of stories where they come from a different country and they play a different sport. And somebody says, wow, you're really tall. You should maybe try this basketball. And Baye Fall did the basketball thing after, playing a lot of soccer in Senegal as a kid. So he did not play a lot of basketball growing up. He did not play much in his junior season of high school basketball. He got kicked off his high school team for a violation of team rules. He played in that grind session league in prep school as a senior. So it wasn't like he was playing a full high school circuit necessarily. But he's a 4-star kid coming out of college or coming out of high school. And in 2 years of college basketball, he has played a grand total of 13 games. He got in 9 games at Arkansas. He got in 4 games this last year at Kansas State. This is a kid who's 6'11", appears to be plenty athletic. He was promising enough to be a McDonald's All-American, but he hadn't played any basketball. And he was in an Arkansas program that changed coaches, so he left Arkansas. That's understandable. The coach that recruited you isn't going to be there anymore. Don't blame a kid for transferring. He ends up at K-State for whatever reason, couldn't get on the court this last year for Jerome Tang's Wildcats.
Well, if I remember correctly, when he came in, we were talking about this on Headlines last night with Brendan. If I remember correctly, when we talked to Fitz, the plan was to maybe not play him as much and give him a redshirt year.
Yeah, well, that was the direction they were moving in. And I think they had played him in few enough games that he could have gotten a red shirt. But at the same time, like this was not a very good basketball team this last year. You would have thought like if he were a real player, if he could have helped them, they would have pulled the red shirt. Like if he could have helped their fortunes, they would have pulled the red shirt. They were trying to win some basketball games, get to the NCAA tournament. And if Baye Fall could have helped them do that, he would have been on the floor. But he's not there yet as a player. And that's what this young man needs. He needs to go to a program where he's going to play. But he's a 4-star and he's a McDonald's All-American. So you've got Power 5 programs. You can't really say Power 5 in football anymore, but I think you still can in basketball because the Big East exists. Whatever. You got power programs that are going to want this kid, and he's going to be in demand, and they might, like K-State did, shell out some NIL to get him so that you can have the picture, the photo op, and say, McDonald's All-American commits to our program. Well, yeah, but is he going to learn how to play in your program? Is he going to get that opportunity? I hope that Fall gets the opportunity to play wherever he ends up. Like, I think he might benefit from maybe going down a level, playing at an upper mid-major, if such a thing can even be considered to exist anymore. Maybe playing in the American or something like that. But he needs to play basketball. And he was not in a position these last 2 years where he got to play in games, and that stunts your growth as a player. And look, I get it. If he couldn't help K-State win basketball games last year, then he shouldn't have played. Then K-State did right by him.
Yeah.
And then it is a disappointing situation if K-State did do right by him in that sense. If he was not ready to play and a red shirt was what he needed, then K-State did do right by him. And then if he leaves anyway, then that's not a great situation. But I just think that young man needs to play. And then Doug McDaniel hit the portal late yesterday evening. And there had been a little bit of noise that he was looking for an increase in his NIL and was looking for a number that maybe K-State was not willing to give to him. And so it did not come as a huge surprise it's disappointing from a continuity perspective, right? Because you'd like to bring back a point guard for year two. It wasn't year two with the same coach, but it was year two in the program that Marquise Noel became Marquise Noel. And Doug McDaniel's got a little bit of Marquise Noel to him in the sense that he's a bit of a wild horse, and he's got some habits on the floor that sometimes you're just going to have to live with him taking tough shots, because sometimes he'll make those tough shots. You're going to have to live with some of his decision making because he's that gifted. He the ceiling with him is that high. But look, when they brought Doug McDaniel in, they were bringing in a kid that got suspended by Michigan the year previous from playing and traveling on road trips. Specifically, Michigan decided at one point last year, you can't go on the road. And I don't know, and none of the details got out on this, and that's fine. It's between player and program. I don't care. It's none of my business. I just know that if it gets to that point, then something's up. And when it got to the point where Doug McDaniel wasn't starting games and CJ Jones was this season in the non-conference for K-State, that told me that something was up. And the way that Jerome Tang talked about his relationship with Doug McDaniel throughout the year very plainly stated that it was a rocky relationship between coach and player. So it is not a surprise that Doug McDaniel is not coming back. It can be disappointing, but not surprising. It can be both things. It can be both things. I think that Jerome Tang will be happier to have, right now as it stands, David Castillo and CJ Jones as his primary ball handling guards, even if the highs won't be as high as they were with Doug, because you don't then have to deal with the lows. You don't then have to deal with any of the stuff that made all of that relationship beyond the on-court relationship as difficult as it clearly was for Jerome Tang last season. So Doug's gone. Baye Fall's gone. Ugo Anienso's gone. So that leaves 4 players returning from last season. CJ Jones, David Castillo, Moby Ike-Garuke, and Taj Manning. Maybe Max Jones gets a waiver. Tyreek Smith has at least been around the program. His waiver's no sure thing, but I think he'll probably get his NCAA waiver. I don't know about Max Jones. There seems to be broadly less confidence about that one than there is about Tyreek Smith getting the extra year. But still, that's not a lot back. And you can look at it 2 ways, right? Continuity is good. Continuity builds culture. You want guys coming back. The more, the merrier. That helps you grow as a team. That being said, the flip side of that discussion is those guys that we just mentioned who aren't on the team anymore, they were good enough for precisely 5 Big 12 wins last year.
Yeah.
5. And maybe that's not a nucleus that is worth trying to preserve. If the culture doesn't work, if the fit with the head coach doesn't work, maybe that's not something that is worth going to the mat or writing an extra NIL check or hitting up another booster for a couple extra 100,000. Doug at the end of the day. But you need players, because what I know about the 4 returning guys is that's not a nucleus that's going to win you a whole lot of Big 12 games either. And I don't dislike David Castillo and CJ Jones and Moby Ike-Garuke. I think all of those guys are fine role players. But if I may turn Jerome Tang's language against him, ain't no dudes.
Yeah.
They're not a dude in that group. Maybe junior year David Castillo can get there. He's a 5-star recruit. Maybe even sophomore year David Castillo takes a big jump this summer. It could happen. But right now on paper, ain't no dudes. Now, K-State did do a bit of portal business this afternoon in a positive way. They went and got a big man. K-State, obviously, those 4 guys I listed, no big men. 0, none. Now they have a big man. They have 1 big man, and his name is Kamari McGriff. He's 6'9", 210 pounds. He transfers in from UNC Wilmington, who you may have seen in the NCAA tournament this past season. They were notable locally because their starting big man is Harlan Obioa, who is from Hoxie, Kansas. And the fact that Obioa was the starting center meant that there weren't a lot of minutes for McGriff this last season at UNC Wilmington. Only played 19 minutes a game, but he made the most of those minutes. He averaged 11.5 points a game. He had a big game against KU at Allen Fieldhouse. He had 18 points and 7 rebounds in that game, and he started that game. And he got a lot of that offense against Hunter Dickinson in the post and Flory Badunga in the post. When I watched his highlights, and again, these are highlights, so you're not getting a full picture of a player when all you're seeing is the good stuff that they do, right? But when I watched him, I saw a very similar player to David Gasson in ways that are both good and bad. The good, he looks like an efficient scorer. Most of his offense comes from around the rim. He's going to shoot the ball in the paint 2 to 5 feet away from the basket. But he's efficient from there. He finishes at a high level from in there. He's going to score efficiently, going to give you some energy, going to give you some leadership. He won the conference's leadership award at UNC Wilmington.
That's good.
So he's going to give you some positive traits.
Yeah.
But he might be a little too slight to play the 5. And he's not going to be able to stretch the floor any if you play him at the 4 because he's not a distant shooter. So, I mean, that is David Gasson, right?
Yeah.
Like that straight down the line. That's all of the things that we said about Gasson, like the good and the bad. And that's, look, if he plays like senior year David Gasson next year for K-State, nobody's complaining. That's a great portal addition. If you got another year effectively of David Gasson type of production. Well, now the trick is, can you find another big to play with him? Either a 4-man with some shooting ability who can also protect the rim, like an Naquan Tomlin. Okay, you're looking for an Naquan Tomlin to play next to him if he's going to be your center. Or if he's not going to be your center, then you need a 5-man with the ability to stretch the floor in his own way, because you couldn't really play Gasson together with Ugo and Yenso, which is why Yenso hardly played. So you need a very specific kind of big man to pair with Kamari McGriff. Another Naquan Tomlin, another Coleman Hawkins. Like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who is 6'10" and can defend at the rim a little bit and can stretch the floor and shoot a little bit. That is a must. K-State has to come out of the portal with somebody like that. They also have to come out of the portal with another ball handling guard, because I like CJ Jones. I don't think he's a Big 12 caliber starting point guard. Maybe David Castillo gets there by the end of his sophomore year, but they don't have a starting caliber point guard just yet. Abdi Bashir, I think, is your 3rd guard, your floor stretcher, your shooter. I'm okay with that. I think that Castillo and Bashir and McGriff are pretty set as 3 of your starters. And I think you've got to upgrade over CJ Jones and file not found for your other 2 starters. That has to be the mission most immediately for Jerome Tang and for Kansas State. That's where they stand after the last 24, 48 hours in the portal.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
I saw someone that works in sports media in the area say this was after Doug McDaniel went in the portal, before it was announced that they got somebody out of the portal. This is a horrible situation for Kansas State to be in right now. Would you agree? Are they in a horrible situation?
They're not in an ideal situation.
Not ideal, but are they in a horrible situation?
Horrible feels like it's overstating it. Because,
that's what I thought too.
It's so early still in the portal process. We thought they were in a horrible position last year, and then they came out of the portal with McDaniel and Hawkins and Yenso, and we all thought,
I feel like KU is also in a somewhat similar position, except for they maybe have one more guy, right?
They've got
2 guys, right?
KU's got the Dawson and White committed out of the portal,
which were all in that was in a 48-hour span.
Like, if they had to play right now, KU could feel okay about a starting 5, and K-State can't. Yeah. Like, that's the difference now.
But it's still early in the.
But it is. It's early enough in the process that I don't think that it's time to do the message board thing and freak out. Like, it is still a lot can happen here. And a lot of the business that K-State did was really late in the portal last year. And so far, the business that K-State has done. Like, nobody was talking about McGriff. That just happened. That just popped up. Like, we weren't saying, ooh, the K-State's got a visit from this kid from UNC Wilmington, and he's going here, here, and here. No, that just kind of popped up on everybody's radar yesterday when he committed to K-State. So maybe K-State's being a little bit more selective. I've made this point before that I think who K-State targets is going to be really telling, and how they build this roster is going to be really telling. Are they trying to build a roster that can be something sustainable, something that can grow, or are they pushing their chips in like they kind of did this last year with a bunch of like one and done transfer types like Coleman Hawkins? Because the latter would tell me that Jerome Tang is feeling a lot of pressure to win now, where if they take some guys who have some eligibility left and they take some guys who are more culture fits or team fits than splashy names, that tells me Jerome Tang feels like, okay, I've still got a couple years to try and build what I want to build here. I've got a little rope from Gene Taylor yet. I've got a little slack yet. But I don't think we know yet because, again, it's pretty early in the portal. McGriff's a one-year guy. Bashir, I think, is a 2-year guy. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. So too early to say for sure. But it is still much too early, I think, for any program in America to freak out about what the portal has brought or has not.
That's what I was thinking, too. I was like, if we're in, like, June and July, I would start to think like that.
I would even say, like, the next couple of weeks is where the rubber's really going to start to meet the road on a lot of these.
Well, a lot of, too, like, some players, when does the portal close?
That is a great question. I do not know that date off the top of my head.
Isn't it 30? Didn't it open and close in 30 days?
It is a that's the football portal. The basketball portal closes in a week.
Okay. Yeah. So then I would think within the next 3 weeks we see a lot of movement.
Yeah, because what it means to say that it closes is nobody new can enter in after April 22nd.
Yeah. Well, and then there are some guys who, I know not a lot of guys do this, but some guys value the academic part of it, of finishing one semester.
Yeah.
And then,
or
because semesters are going to be coming up here in the next 3 weeks.
And there could be some NIL checks that still haven't cleared yet. That was an issue with some guys. So yeah, there's still a long way to go on this.
That's what I was thinking.
It is far too early to declare anything to be broken or to be panicking or anything like that. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we've got What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you on 580 Sports Talk is brought to you by our guy Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan Mo Winkle. See what Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. Give him a call today, 785-273-1572. Our current weekly champion, story I have dubbed, Get a Room. The woman who booked a lot of hotels in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, with no intention of anybody staying in them, costing the hotel itself thousands of dollars because the no-show fee is only a percentage of the reservation price. She kept doing it. They would tell her not to do it, and they arrested her for it and ordered her to stop making reservations, and she kept making reservations. We have a helpful meme on the YouTube stream that lays it out for you. Going back for more reservations is what this woman did. She got arrested for making hotel reservations, and then she went back and made some more. Addicted to making hotel reservations. Yes,
I didn't know that was possible.
I think that might be what we were dealing with. I just love the way the story is written too. She was not allowed to make reservations within a 200-mile radius. The following weekend, investigators, she said, she continued to make more reservations. 96 of them. That's so many reservations. Anyhow, 2 new stories today. I will go first. We're going to Southwest Florida, and they are seeking information on a theft in Bonita Springs by a woman who entered the home under the pretense of religious reasons. It occurred on last Thursday, between 6 and 6:45 p.m. According to Crime Stoppers, the woman entered a private residence while 2 accomplices distracted the homeowner by pretending to be a part of a religious group. The woman stole $3,500 in jewelry and an unknown amount of cash before escaping through a side door and fleeing in a white vehicle. Some neighbors were aware of the robbery while others were not, but all said they will be more vigilant in the future. Neighbors are taking extra precautions by locking their windows and doors. I don't know about you, Spencer, and somebody comes and knocks on my door and asks me if I've heard the good news about whatever their religion of choice might be. They don't last very long at my door. I tell them no thank you, or I tell them we have a sleeping baby, or I lie and tell them our baby is sleeping, and that is the end of that conversation. It never gets to a point where they are in front of me long enough that I wouldn't notice somebody coming in the back door and ripping me off. How does it come to that? I guess, like, how are you duped that easily that you let somebody, you're dealing with these people long enough? Like, are you really sitting there and listening to them tell you the entire history of the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Also, I don't know about you. I mean, maybe if I had a house, it might be different. But, like, I don't just leave doors unlocked.
Yeah, there's that. Doors or windows, yeah. Typically, don't leave those unlocked. Yeah.
Yeah, like, if I'm not walking in and out of the door's locked.
It's like the...
or if we don't have the door open because we're letting air in, then it's locked.
It's like that Simpsons episode where they've got the evil toy and Homer has to steal it.
Yeah.
And they all go out and they're caroling, and Homer's breaking into everybody's house dressed like Santa and taking the doll, the evil doll, away underneath the tree. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what that reminded me of. Anyhow, what is your story today?
All right. We're also going to Florida. We're going to, let me pull, okay, I got the right one. Polk County man is in custody after a March 30th road rage shootout that occurred in a public supermarket parking lot in a nearby county. According to the Oskaloosa County Sheriff's Department, Jesus Manuel Perez has been charged with attempted murder, shooting into an occupied conveyance, and discharge of a firearm in public. They say that Perez aggressively honked his horn at the victim at a traffic light that had just turned green and tried to drive around him, but he was held up by other traffic. The victim then drove into the public parking lot, but Perez followed him. Once in the parking lot, Perez blocked the victim's vehicle and exited his own car before opening fire. The victim fired back, and Perez fled. Police said the victim will not be charged because he was acting in self-defense. Neither person was injured during the exchange. Oskaloosa Sheriff Marcos Lopez says, scary situation. You don't know where the gunfire is coming from. We have so many incidents or even active shooter situations, so you got to duck, obviously. Perez is being held in the Polk County Jail without bail. Jail records show that he, along with violent crime charges, Perez was charged with possession of marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, container, and other drugs in the past. So no good guy decides to have road rage in the middle of the day.
So I'm going with my story to win the day because like it's more of a ruse. That's just a road rage, the ruse. But I gotta stay with
it. Was caught on camera though, so it's funny.
I gotta go with Get a Room still as our champion on What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by our buddy Mo Winkle. Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. Visit his website, RyanMoWinkle.com. Hit our buddy Mo up today. Michael Swain joins us next for Jayhawk Weekly. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, covering all things Jayhawks for 24/7 Sports. Become a VIP subscriber today and get all of Michael's inside Jayhawk info. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for a little segment we call Jayhawk Weekly. And Michael, it's been a little bit quiet on the basketball transfer portal front of late. We'll get back into that, but first, let's talk a little football. Let's switch up the order today because spring practice is now in the books for the Kansas Jayhawks. And if there's one thing over the course of the 15 practices, the media availability, what you've gotten to see, what you've been able to report, if there's one thing that has you a little more optimistic, feeling good about the direction of KU football heading into the 2025 season coming out of spring, what did you see? What did you hear that excited you the most?
Yeah, I think it's the acclimation of some of the transfers. You know, that's something that I think can be overlooked sometimes. You bring new players, learning the scheme, learning the program, learning the culture, all that stuff. Sometimes it can take some time, right? We've seen that in past years. And, you know, I was going back and looking at some of the past spring practice stuff I've written to see what the word was on transfers coming out of spring and how that translated to the fall. And more often than not, the guys that were showing signs of being good additions in the spring turned out to be good additions in the fall. And the guys that tended to struggle in spring tended to kind of have some struggles going into fall camp. So this is something that I think is really important to look at. And for KU, what are the areas that KU needs the transfers to really hit the ground running. Well, it's wide receiver and it's linebacker. KU has an entirely new wide receiver room and an entirely new linebacker room, and they were made up mostly of transfers. And so, coming out of spring, seeing what the linebacker room looks like, it's definitely a more athletic room than I think we've seen KU have. I think it's potentially just in pure talent sense, I think probably the best room KU's had, at least under Lance Leipold, if not longer. And then you look at the wide receiver room, you return guys like, Doug Emillion, Keith Quebeca, but then you add someone like Emmanuel Henderson from Alabama, who really did hit the ground running. And I think probably is going to be my pick for, KU's wide receiver one right now, and then you can look at someone like Cam Pickett, or Levi Wentz. Those two guys, I was kind of like, going into spring, I'm not kind of sure about it, but hey man, those guys came in and really did impress and did some really good things. So for KU, I think those are the two things that really give you a lot of encouragement, because you feel pretty good about the defensive line, right? With what KU has, you feel pretty good about, the quarterback position, the running back position with Daniel Highshaw and LaShawn Williams. Like, I think for KU, they needed to hit on these wide receiver transfers and needed to hit on the linebacker transfers. And look, things can change during camp, but coming out of spring, it sounds like those guys have really hit the ground running, and those portal additions, I think, have been very sound.
You mentioned the linebacker spot. Bengali Kamara was one of the first names to commit to Kansas out of the transfer portal. If I remember right, that was before the season even really ended properly, that Bengali Kamara announced that he was coming to KU from South Carolina. What do you imagine his role looks like in an ideal world? Where does he get his snaps, and how productive can he be in the defense this coming season?
Yeah, man, I think he's going to be a big player for KU. He's someone that I was pretty high on when he committed, and you watch him move around to practice, and it is one of those types of additions where you just see it, right? You see why he was able to go play in the SEC. Tall, long, athletic, really well built. And I think he's going to be KU starting, weak side linebacker. KU's kind of moved more towards, more of a 4-2-5 look last season, and I think some of that will continue with DK McDonald. And so I just really like what he can bring for KU. Plays north to south, but man, he's just generally a very fluid athlete. And so I think if you're a KU fan, you're thinking what JB Brown brought in terms of just the physicality, the north to south speed. Well, I think, maybe add an inch and some inches on his arms, and you can give him maybe a little bit more fluidity with his athleticism. And that's what, Bengali can be for KU. So I think right now, I think he'd be pretty close to my pick for maybe being up there, number 1, number 2, number 3 in the tackling ranks for KU.
Michael Swain of Fog.net is our guest here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline on 580 Sports Talk, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly. Where do the biggest question marks still lie for Kansas football coming out of spring?
Yeah, I think offensive line is one. It's such a challenge for KU with the way things went. They're going to need to integrate 2 new starters, technically 3, but Calvin Clemens has played before, and technically, I guess, started a game. But Calvin Clemens at left tackle, Kobe Baines at right guard, Bryce Foster at center. Those are the guys are going to start. It's a question of finding what do those other pieces look like. And, Tavake Tuikolovatu was brought in from UCLA, and he started the spring hurt. And it wasn't until about the final third of spring that he was able to get out there and be in pads again. So you don't really know yet what you have with him. And then you've got your potential starting right tackle, Nolan Gorska. He went out with a finger injury in the first third of spring. So KU has not been able to work with what would be, I think, the projected starting 5 on the roster right now. And then there's the transfer portal aspect of this too. KU's looking in the portal for a right tackle. So I think this is a position that is going to go into the fall. It's going to be really interesting to watch. And I think it's going to be, it's one of those things where for how long, when you watch Kansas football, did you think, man, I don't care what the buzz is before the year. I don't care what they do. The offensive line is going to stink. Well, I'm almost like on the opposite side now, where I kind of look at it and I'm like, they'll just kind of figure it out. And it's going to be a top, third unit in the Big 12, just because, they've earned that type of respect in terms of the evaluation and the way that they build out these units year in and year out. Things have changed. KU's not run back the same 5. And so I have faith they'll figure it out, but at least right now you can't not say it's a question mark.
Do you expect that KU football will remain active in the transfer portal? You mentioned they're looking still at offensive line potentially. Do you think it would be a pretty targeted thing if they're still looking into the portal? Do they expect to have many, if any, losses into the portal?
Yeah, well, look, player retention is really important for KU, and something Lance Leipold has really done a good job of, as head coach. So obviously, I think number one priority, retain. And then from there, I think it's about filling gaps. Demarius McGee did not return to the program. He quit football. And he was someone that I think myself and others had tabbed as someone that could go in and be a guy that competes on the two deep, competes for a starting job. So I think you look at cornerback right now, and I did a projected depth chart on the website yesterday, and you just look at the corner spot and you kind of scratch your head like, man, it looks like they need one more body there. So I think corner and offensive line are going to be the two biggest needs KU has. But man, I don't think this is going to be a super busy spring. The spring portal typically is pretty thin in terms of, talent, and it's a very competitive market, which then you get into a bunch of other issues. So for KU, I think this will be maybe a 2-3, maximum 4 spot spring portal season. And that's, of course, if KU can hold on to everybody, which is going to be their biggest goal.
Our guest is Michael Swain, covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You can catch him every Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. All right, Michael, let's pivot to basketball, where the transfer portal, of course, remains open and KU remains active, trying to fill their roster. The new name to watch on the board right now appears to be Melvin Council, who just had his visit, was tweeting about it on social media, a guard out of St. Bonaventure. What do we know about Melvin Council, and what would be his fit on Bill Self's roster?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think some people have seen some Tyshawn Taylor in him and what he does, right? He's a downhill guard. He's long, 6'4", 6'5". I think he does kind of fit the mold of what it seems like KU is looking for right now, which is guys that are experienced college players that can guard and can have one trait offensively that they can lean on. Someone like Jaden Dawson from Loyola Chicago, right? His big trait is, right, he's a good shooter. Well, I think for someone like Melvin Council, man, he played so many minutes for St. Bonaventure, and he was such a careful basketball player in terms of he had high usage. He created a lot for others, but his turnover to assist ratio is really good. Turnover to usage ratio was good. So he's a guy that can take care of the basketball. And so if you want to play Darren Peterson off the ball during periods of a game or when Darren has to sit, you can have someone like Melvin Council and Marco Jackson out there and have two ball handlers, or you can play him alongside Darren Peterson. So I think he's the type of guy that, can kind of fit what I think Bill Self's trying to do, which is getting back to some degree to some of his roots, right? Guys that are really tough, that guard, that rebound, that defend, like things that I think to some degree KU has lacked the last couple of years. Toughness, right? Stuff like that. And so Melvin Council, I think, really does check those boxes, and it seems like he's someone that is definitely trending towards KU.
If he ends up on the KU roster, is he a starting player? Do you think he might end up the 2 guard next to Darren Peterson? What would his fit be in terms of how he would play rotationally with the roster as currently constructed?
Yeah, I think he's kind of a 2/3. I think he's the type of guy that you could definitely see playing the 2 because he does a lot of those things, right? Handling the ball really well. He does cut really well. He drives decently. He doesn't get to the free throw line a bunch, but that's okay. Because I think in terms of a different scheme, right, sometimes you can't always project these things, but I think he's a guy that could look at as being like a 2 guard for KU, or could even theoretically, right, play the 1 if Darren Peterson's on the bench or Marco Jackson's in foul trouble, right, those sorts of things. So more of a guard, not necessarily a wing, but I think with his length and his size, he could probably play some of the 3 as well.
Couple more questions for Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. We know KU's in the market for a backup big man. Flory Badunga, of course, back. He'll start at the 5. KU needs some post depth. Word is out that they are considering a big man from overseas, from Africa, in fact. Paul Mbia, who is likely to declare for the NBA draft, is also reportedly looking to set up a visit with KU. What kind of skill set would he bring, and does he fit the backup big void that KU's looking for, or is he maybe good enough to potentially, or polished enough eventually, to start?
Yeah, he's pretty raw, and I think I'm not super sold yet on necessarily what the fit would look like, because I do think when you have Floyd Bidunga, Floyd's got a lot of growing up to do, and I think you need more of a veteran, experienced center to have behind him who, if Floyd gets in foul trouble, you're not all of a sudden sending a super raw player out there who then gets himself in foul trouble, and then all of a sudden you're really screwed. So I think I can see some of it, how it could work for KU. He's tall, he's long, pretty bouncy, just not super polished. Then you're asking someone that, right, he's playing overseas, but he's playing mostly for an under 21 team, not the full blown pro team. And granted, the pro team, the pro organization he's a part of is one of the best in France. But I think for KU, I'm not super sold yet on if this is the one backup big man behind Flory. But I think he's someone that definitely has some potential, and I do think would be a very interesting addition for KU, but just maybe under some different circumstances.
It feels like the RJ Lewis speculation has calmed down a little bit. Is that a reflection of KU maybe cooling on the player, or Lewis maybe taking his time in the portal process?
Yeah, so I think to some degree, I think KU may be going in a different direction. Things continue to change, and I think for KU, the idea of what maybe the next editions looked like at the start of last week are maybe different than what they do this week. And I think the House settlement getting pushed back obviously creates an opportunity for more kind of instantaneous NIL deals to get done. And KU does very well with NIL. So I think there could be other opportunities that maybe didn't look like they would be there at the start of last week. Maybe those things are maybe starting to slightly change a little bit. So I don't know if RJ is that type of guy for KU. He's got a lot of options, and I think someone's going to pay a lot of money to get him back to school. But I think KU may still look at a big time kind of splash edition. But again, man, so much of this stuff is fluid. I can tell you this, and then some stuff could change by the time we talk next week. But I think that's kind of where things are trending right now, where I think if KU can get a Melvin Council, get a backup big man for cheap, maybe there's enough resources there to go after maybe one big swing on the wing.
Michael Swain covers it all at fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Outstanding Jayhawk coverage and insight, and the VIP subscription is so worth it to get all of the details from 24/7 Sports and fog.net. Michael joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly here on the program. Michael, it's always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you next week.
That is Michael Swain. We'll step aside for a timeout, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk next.
This will be a quick segment because we got to get to the national and local news. Our thanks again to Michael Swain of Fog.net for joining us. Coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, it's just a half hour because we're breaking away for Royals baseball at 5:30. So we'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines, some K-State women's basketball players getting some WNBA opportunities, a hilarious story from college football, Bill Belichick's girlfriend. It is so funny. And our first playoff roundup of the year coming up in the final half hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final half hour of this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you. Brendan Dworzinski a little under the weather today. We hope to have him back tomorrow. We've got one more half hour, about 24 minutes, give or take, with you here on 580 Sports Talk today before we hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. Royals-Yankees, Game 2 of a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx tonight. Our pal Mark B in the YouTube comments on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, asked about the weather. Going to be mid-50s, chilly, a little windy tonight at the stadium. Michael Wacha and Max Fried, your starting pitching matchup. Pre-game coverage again starting at 5:30, first pitch at 6:05. Thank you for being with us for this final half hour of 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, and online at 580WIBW.com. And again, hello to everyone watching us on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. WIBW News is the Facebook page where you can watch us as well. Again, since we're out of here at 5:30, we don't have a lot of time together. So we're going to sprint through our 580 Sports Talk headlines, wrap things up with a final word. But before we get there, I got one more keyword to give you for the Choose Your Trip 2025 sweepstakes. Go to our website, 580WIBW.com, and click on the link that says listen to win a trip to anywhere in the U.S. There is a landing page where it prompts you to enter a keyword, and we have a new keyword for the hour. It will work for the remainder of the 5 o'clock hour. If you entered last hour's keyword at like 4:30 and you're thinking, well, that was my one keyword for the day. No, you can enter all the keywords. Just have to enter them in the appropriate hour. Think of it as another purchased ticket to get in the raffle to see if you can win a trip to anywhere in the United States. This hour's keyword is music. Music, M-U-S-I-C, music. As in, hearing that the Royals score more than one run tonight would be music to my ears. Music, M-U-S-I-C.
And a lot of fans, too.
So you go and enter that keyword, 580WIBW.com. Let's get to those headlines. Let's start with some news from last night. A couple of different headlines from K-State women's basketball.
I got the cut of the announcement. Do you want to play it?
Well, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's let somebody else do the headline from last night's WNBA draft.
With the 26th pick in the 2025 WNBA draft, the Seattle Storm select Serena Sundell, Kansas State University.
Very cool moment for Serena Sundell, a third-round selection in last night's 2025 WNBA draft. She is the 9th player in K-State history to be selected in the draft and the first in 8 years. Being the 26th overall pick made her the first pick of the third round. Sundell finished her K-State career as the all-time leader in games played, games started, and career assists, and ranked 6th on the all-time scoring list. Sundell, the only Wildcat drafted last night, but not the only one to find a WNBA opportunity, as Tamira Poindexter signed a free agent contract with the Phoenix Mercury. She was not one of the players selected in the 3-round WNBA draft, but did sign a free agent contract. Will have an opportunity to go to camp with the Mercury. So congratulations to both Serena and Tamira for continuing their basketball careers. We have a bunch of transfer portal bits from men's and women's basketball. Spencer, you just want to lump them into all one headline here?
Yeah, I'll do it here. We'll stick with Kansas State women's hoops to start things off. Jeff Mittie announced today that they have added to their backcourt. They have signed Tess Heel, product of Melbourne, Australia, the second player in program history from Australia. The other being Rebecca Dollinger from 2021 to 2024. The 5'10 guard played the last season at Stanford, where she was the only player in Division I to card a field goal percentage of 50% or better at 50.3 and a three-point percentage of 45% or better at 49.3, with a minimum of 2 3-point field goals per game and 30 or more games played. Prior to that, she spent the first 2 seasons of her career at Santa Clara. She averaged 8 points a game with 11 games in double figures this last season. And for Kansas women, they have also announced a signing to their transfer class, transferring from Indiana for her final season of her career. I believe she's got 1 year of eligibility left after spent 3 seasons at Indiana, is Lily Meister, as I believe how you say her last name. She's a 6'3" forward, 96 career games over 3 seasons for Indiana. Last season, she started 17 games for the Hoosiers and averaged a career best 6.7 points and 3.5 rebounds per game. She is the first transfer for Kansas for next season. She joins the highly touted high school recruiting class that is ranked 6th in the country by ESPNW. And the last bit of transfer news for former KU men's hoops player AJ Storr. He has announced he is going to play his, final season of eligibility at Ole Miss next season after averaging 6.1 points per game at KU after his, amazing season the year prior at Wisconsin.
7 schools in 7 years for AJ Storr. Yep. I'm sorry, it'll be 8-8 when he goes to Oxford.
Apparently,
it's 4 different teams, 4 different conferences.
Apparently, he went to 5 different high schools, though.
Yes, was it 5? I think it was only 4.
No, he went to 5 different high schools, played for 4.
Played for 4. Okay, so
he
8 different uniforms in 8 different years.
He started 1 year at a school, and before basketball season started, he went to another school. So that's wild.
Yeah, he'll go play for Chris Beard at Ole Miss, and maybe he'll get to be a little bit more ball dominant, and maybe that unlocks the best version of AJ Storr, such as it is. But wish him all the best. But it's hard to. I think this is just a general rule of thumb. When you don't stay in the same place and you keep moving from team to team, school to school, coach to coach, scheme to scheme, teammate to teammate, I think it makes it hard for you to develop as a player. I do. I don't think it's good for your development as a player. I think that's true in any sport. So best of luck to AJ Storr. I don't have a ton to add regarding the women's basketball transfer news. It is very interesting where KU has definitely built their roster through high school recruiting for this coming season and will use the portal in a supplemental fashion, where K-State's kind of got to build a roster from the ground up, and they go get a player in Heel who's got a lot of experience. She's competed nationally, represented her country, Australia, in international competition. Not a big guard, but certainly an efficient scorer. Was a big deal, was a big-time scorer at Santa Clara. Didn't score as much at Stanford, but also known as a solid defender as well. So that will definitely help fill some of the backcourt voids that K-State has with all of the graduations and defections as well. So that is the latest from the transfer portal for men's and women's basketball. Next headline for me. I'm so glad we have some time to talk about this. From The Athletic. How involved is Bill Belichick's girlfriend at UNC? New emails show a glimpse inside her role. So I'm going to have to log into my Athletic account here. I forgot I wasn't logged in on this computer.
I have seen this in recent weeks, different little things, a little email release from after the weeks after he was hired, basically saying that copy all of my stuff.
Yeah.
Anything you send to me, copy whatever her name is.
So there was a request from Bill Belichick when he was first on the job, a request via email that was, please include my significant other in all of our email correspondences. And as you may or may not be aware, and I think probably if you're listening to this show, you are aware that Bill Belichick, who is decidedly not 24 years old, has a 24-year-old girlfriend, and her name is Jordan Hudson.
He also has a 38-year-old son.
Yes, he does. He has a 38-year-old.
Put that in the context.
He has a 38-year-old son, and that son is going to be his defensive coordinator. That is, of course, Steve Belichick, who's going to be the defensive coordinator at the University of North Carolina as Bill Belichick prepares to become the head coach there. So anyway, The Athletic filed an open records request to see, okay, if they want Belichick's girlfriend on all these emails, how involved is she? How involved is she in these email conversations? It turns out the answer to that is very. Hudson wrote an email. This is Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend. Bill Belichick is 72 years old. Hudson wrote to the school's media team to raise awareness regarding a sometimes subtle, sometimes obvious, frequently occurring detail within media releases and social media posts. Those are her words. More from Hudson in the email, dated December 22nd. Though Steve Belichick is in fact Bill's son, he should be depicted and represented as his own established, credible entity as opposed to an extension of Bill. It can be easily misinterpreted that Steve is simply benefiting from nepotism, but that is not the case. Steve was fortunate to have learned defensive football strategy from the greatest defensive mind of all time. Her words about her boyfriend. He has earned his position, being Steve now, due to his performance and output. More from the email. It is really worth emphasizing the point that Steve has the experience of being a college, in all caps, defensive coordinator and will bring a plethora of knowledge to the coaching staff. I believe being strategic about the depiction of the Steve, her words, will prevent controversy and show utmost respect. That's not the phrase, by the way. It's utmost. The utmost respect towards Steve's career, validate Bill's decision as a HC to hire Steve. I cannot put this better than Jason Kirk, also of The Athletic, put it on Blue Sky earlier today. 38-year-old defended from Nepo allegations by his 24-year-old potential stepmother.
I want to know how weird it feels to be Steve Belichick.
Yeah, I do wonder that.
It's got to be a weird situation.
He's never going to beat the nepotism allegations.
Oh, no, never. I just meant in general. How is that going to feel to be in that situation?
If he weren't such, if he weren't a nepo baby, as they say, somebody else would have given him a job other than just his dad for all these years. 1 year at Washington last year, the only time that Steve Belichick has stood on a sideline that was not also being stood upon by his dad. Also, Bill Belichick's hiring another one of his sons to be on the staff, but apparently we're not worried about him. We're not worried about Brian Belichick and him being portrayed as a nepo baby. Not worried. Jordan is not worried about the younger son. He's worried about Steve being viewed as a nepo baby. The emails do not reference Brian, who is Bill's youngest son and is the new defensive backs and safeties coach, who's spent 9 years with who? The New England Patriots. But we're not worried about Brian. We're not worried about Brian. We're only worried about Steve. I would hate for anyone to think that Steve Belichick is a nepo baby. I would hate for anybody to get the wrong idea about him. So yeah, that is how involved Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend is in to the point where she is driving media relations. She is dictating social media and media relations for the Belichick family.
How much do you think she is just typing out an email and Bill is saying it?
0%. 0%. I think that this is all Jordan's doing. I also think this is all Jordan's doing, even though Belichick signed these papers. On April 3rd, Belichick signed a document with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office consenting to an application for 14 phrases, including the Bellustrator, the Belichick Way, Chapel Bill, and my favorite, Chapel Bill, Bill's version.
That's definitely her.
Yeah, that's an explicit Taylor Swift reference. Bill Belichick has never listened to a Taylor Swift song in his life.
Well, in the car, she's playing DJ. Jordan's playing DJ. He's probably heard.
So it was back when Steph Curry's dad, Del Curry, divorced his wife, and there was a Twitter user at the time by the name of Solomon, Missouri, who tweeted one of the most epic threads in the history of the website, talking to Del Curry. And the advice contained therein included, you don't want to be out here, as in out here looking for someone else to date. You think you want to be out here because you're not out here. When you get out here, you ain't going to want to be out here no more. Last time you was out here was different. The best you're going to get is what you already got. And then there's a lot more details about all young women do these days is start podcasts and talk about plate fixing. You don't want to be out here learning TikTok dances and falling off milk crates. Do you like turmeric charcoal ice cream? You better learn to like it. You're going to be wearing a hottie shirt by Thanksgiving. You better ask your wife to forgive you. You're going to be chasing Cialis with Red Bull. Bill Belichick. Love the wife of your youth. Let that be a lesson to everybody. All right. It is time for the return of the playoff roundup.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
I still remember how to do that.
The NBA play-in tournament begins tonight. The number 7 seeds in each conference will be determined. First in the East, Orlando plays host to Atlanta. And then in the West, Golden State takes on Memphis. That's how good the Western Conference is. If you haven't been paying attention to the NBA and you're dropping in for the playoffs, just know this. Golden State is in the play-in. That's how good and deep the Western Conference is. They host a Memphis team that fired their coach 3 weeks ago and is still not the team in the Western Conference field who has fired their coach most recently. So, yeah, wild things have been going on. The winners of tonight's game, Orlando and Atlanta, the winner gets Boston in round 1, the defending champs. I don't think you want those problems. The winner between Golden State and Memphis will host Houston, who is the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. A doubleheader tonight in the NBA play-in tournament. That concludes a very brief edition of the playoff roundup. We'll flesh it out as the playoffs get underway. NHL playoffs next week, right?
I think they start Sunday.
I think you're right. I think it's Sunday because the regular season ends Thursday night.
Yes.
And so, we'll do a full playoff roundup we won't have a playoff roundup Friday because we only got like 2 hours of show.
We'll have Monday.
Maybe we'll sneak one in. And then Monday we'll have a really full playoff roundup for you. We're really good at going. Before we take a quick break, I want to tell you about my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. Now is the perfect time to join Great Life and get yourself the best golf and fitness membership in Topeka. Outstanding member benefits for you, for your spouse, for the entire family. 5 great golf courses, 7 outstanding fitness facilities. And again, now is the time, the perfect time to become a member. Take advantage on the Play Everything membership of unlimited individual golf and fitness at all Topeka locations for singles, couples, and family. I'm an all-inclusive member. You get all the Play Everything perks and a little bit more. It's a great value. Go to greatlifetopeka.com or learn more and become a member at Great Life today. We're back after this with the final word. We got less than a minute for a final word. Spencer Dupuis.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about K-State and the transfer portal and all the players leaving, and it's not the time necessarily right now to freak out. Give it a few weeks, let things shake out. Players finishing up. The portal closes here in a couple weeks. That doesn't mean you got to be done, but still time yet to become.
Final word for me today. Today is Jackie Robinson Day, April 15th. Jackie Robinson Day across Major League Baseball. All players will wear number 42. Do the research on the Jackie Robinson story. Jackie Robinson was a fighter and a fighter all his life, and Jackie Robinson was one hell of a baseball player. And his story deserves to be told loudly, even the ugly parts. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We're back tomorrow from 3 to 5:30. For Spencer, I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk. Royals baseball is next. Good night.